Welcome back, gamers. Crota has released its Master Mode, which means you can now start progressing your Sword Bearer seal to unlock the full seal by doing the Master Mode and doing the encounter challenges. For this week, week 1, it is going to be the Conservation of Energy Challenge, aka the Abyss, not to be confused with the actual Encounter Triumph, which is Feathered Light, which is the super annoying one that nobody wants to do. This one is much more relaxing. You just need to coordinate a little bit to get it done for your loot / your triumph. So the first thing I want to talk about is what is the challenge, what do you need to do, and what you don't need to do. The reason I want to bring up what you don't need to do is I've seen misconceptions of people online saying, hey, challenge is this, you need to do this, and you beat the challenge, when that's not the case at all, and in fact, it's detrimental to your run. I'll get into that in a second, but let's talk about what the challenge is first. So the challenge is you must enlighten only one lamp for every preservation node that you put in until you get to the next node. So what I mean by this is, let's give you an example. Preservation node number 1 is always at the beginning on lamp 1, but the rest of the route is RNG. So let's give you an example of the next one being at lamp number 4. Now obviously, as you know, to beat the encounter, you have to use each preservation node as you get to the top of the bridge to beat the encounter properly. The challenge portion of this is when you're going between two of these nodes, so between 1 and 4 in this example, you can only enlighten one single lamp, and that's it. If you try to enlighten a second one until you've gotten to that second node, it's challenge failed. So essentially the order would be node, lamp, node, lamp, node, lamp, node, lamp, and then you get to the top of the bridge and then finish the encounter. Now, for the misconception on this part, you do not, I repeat, you do not have to enlighten the same lamp where you just put your preservation node down to swap the chalice. I don't know why this is being passed around as this is the challenge. While technically you can do that, that is not a mandatory thing. You can actually enlighten any lamp you want as long as it's just one lamp between two preservation node locations. Not only that, but preserving and then enlightening the same lamp next to where you just preserved is actually detrimental to your run, because every time you preserve your chalice, you reset your timer for engulfed darkness back to 1 minute or whatever it is. And then if you enlighten a lamp, you do it again. So essentially you're just resetting your timer twice at the exact same location for no reason. In this situation, you would preserve the node, it will reset your timer, you just re-pick up the chalice, and you continue to go forward. So let's say we just preserved our node at lamp 4, and our timer is back to 1 minute. We would take the chalice, continue going forward, and then as we get forward, we could light up lamp 5 or 6, and then at that point, let's say we're at like 30 seconds on engulfed, the enlighten would then reset the timer again. So what we just did is we went to 1 minute, we traveled forward, 30 seconds went down, then we enlightened the lamp, and we regained 30 seconds instead of just, oh, I preserved the lamp 4, we're at 1 minute. Okay, let me enlighten again. Okay, we're at 1 minute again after 2 seconds later. You see what I mean? Essentially, what I'm saying is you can just deposit your chalice at a lamp and avoid using that lamp where you just deposit it into the node, so you can move to a future location down the line and reset that second time away and further up the chain to the Bridge of the Abyss. That way, you're just spreading out your resets and just having a healthy timer the entire time, instead of, I reset twice in one location, we move forward, hey, now we're at 20 seconds, and we still don't have our Enlighten to use anywhere else. Now, moving to the encounter itself, and what changed? Well, basically nothing. The encounter is still exactly the same, all the way until you get to the top of the bridge, and you're building the final plate to get out of the encounter. Aside from that, obviously, it's Master Mode, so the difficulty is -20 power to you, so you do less damage and you take more damage from enemies. And at the end of the bridge, instead of getting regular sword knights to your sides, you're going to get barrier champions. So you're going to have barrier and unstoppable champions while you're on the final plate at the end building that bridge. Aside from that, the encounter is exactly the same. Okay, so we've talked about what the challenge is and what I think you should do, and also what the changes, or one singular change, is to the encounter. Now let's talk about what you can do to optimize your clearing, whether you're doing it with friends or maybe you're helping people get their master challenge done. So the first thing I'm going to recommend is immediately you should be on strand. 100%, without a shadow of a doubt, you should be on strand. I understand some people like to play solar for maybe well protection, or arc also for protection, but strand will make your life so much easier in this encounter, it's not even funny. Why strand, you ask? Well, it's grapple. That's literally the reason. Grappling. You can just use grapple and ignore Weight of Darkness all you want throughout the entire encounter. Yeah, you'll be slow on the ground for the brief time that you're on the ground during the encounter, but when you have a grapple, and if you do it right, you will always have a grapple, you can just keep moving forward from lamp to lamp to lamp to lamp, as much as you want. Now, if you're playing something like Hunter, you can also use Widow Silk to have 2 grapples for you. But you don't even need to use that, because not only do you have your abilities to make tangles, and when you throw tangles, you can grapple to them and have unlimited grapples from that, you also have the ability to use the Navigator. Now, obviously, not everyone is going to have a Navigator, but all you need really is one. Now, the reason you use the Navigator is because the special reload on the gun has you throw out a grapple tangle ball in the air where you can put an anchor point, and then anybody can just swing onto that and not use their own grapple and just use the tangle that you just made from the Navigator. So, essentially, between your abilities, making tangles and throwing those, and somebody using the Navigator to make a tangle point in the air for a grapple, you can almost infinitely have grapples the entire time. Now, sometimes, obviously, something could happen and you may end up using your grapple, but that's totally fine because strand abilities will just naturally give back energy to your grapple anyway. The melees in particular for all the classes will easily give you a tangle on a thrall kill like that, and then you could just be like, hey guys, I'm about to throw a tangle in the air, 3, 2, 1, and then bam, everybody just swings forward. Now, the other thing to mention in terms of just speeding up, you have Eager's Edge on your sword. I do want to say that this is kind of a double-edged technique here, because while it could be really, really helpful in you just keeping up or going forward or zooming past pendulums, it also can be detrimental and ruin runs because people can be reckless with it, like swinging into your teammates, which will then swing them into a pendulum or into a hole, or you can just swing and sword logic your way straight into a cursed thrall's face, and then they explode, and then you die because, I don't know, sword targeting. You could kind of sort of nullify this if you look straight up when you Eager's Edge, but I imagine people on controller might have a little issue with that. Either way, all I'm saying is it's good tech, but it's also super risky, and if you're using strand and grapples, you could just not use an Eager Edge sword at all and just use that and be fine. But if you're good and experienced with it and you don't throw your teammates into giant pendulums that swing everywhere, then you could use that and be fine as well. I have one more tip to talk about, but before that, I'd just like to say if you're enjoying the video, or maybe this helps you, a like, a comment, or a sub would be appreciated, as it helps the channel grow and also fight the YouTube algorithm, and is much appreciated. Now, let's move on to the last tip. So this one is completely optional, and you don't actually have to do it if you don't want to, or you don't have anybody comfortable enough to do it, but as you get through the abyss, about halfway through, you will notice where there's a light, where a ledge is, where you can go into a door. This was one of the chest doors in D1, but you can definitely point it out as you get there. I'll try to put it on screen right now as well. When you get to this section, you can actually use your grapple or a tangle plus grapple combo, whatever you want to do, and then head upwards with the grapple and head towards the end of the bridge by yourself. Now, this won't activate the end of the bridge and just beat the encounter for everybody else, but what this does do is it makes the thrall on the bottom, where your teammates still are, despawn. So the thrall will no longer be spawning down there, other than maybe a loose, like, yellow bar thrall that always spawns no matter what. But the majority of the red bars will be gone. Your teammates won't have to worry about thrall at all, and they'll just have to just walk and not get hit by a bunch of pendulums, and that's it. Once you've actually gone up there, you don't even have to stay up there on the plate. You can just head back to your team afterwards and rejoin them, and now all of you guys have no thrall to deal with until you start getting towards the end at the very top of the abyss. Once you're at the end, the encounter plays out exactly the same as normal. You build the plate through the chalice, or without the chalice if you'd like. You can deposit it into the node, or you can lighten the plate multiple times. That's totally fine. It does not fail the challenge, in case anybody was curious. And at this point, you're just trying to stun the barrier and the unstoppable champions as they spawn in to your sides, and that's pretty much it. You cross the bridge when it's built, get to the end, and get your loot. Last thing I want to note here, in case people are wondering, the loot is on a knockout list for the guns. So, if you get, let's say, Song of Your Ute your first time, you're guaranteed to get a different weapon on your next try, and then your third, and fourth, and fifth, and sixth tries. So, if you do this week 3 times, and then next week 3 times, you will have all 6 adept weapons done for Crota's End. Also, the node for the raid says intellect-based armor, which is incorrect. It's actually resilience-based armor, so it's the best stat you could possibly get on this armor. So if you want to get resilience-based armor for Crota's End, just go to the end and use your spoils after you beat Crota, and you get high resilience in all the armor pieces that you're farming. That's all for today. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments, or maybe if you have any other tips for strategies for this as well, feel free to leave that down there too. Other than that, like, share, subscribe. It does help the channel. It is much appreciated, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Goodbye.